from Timcast.com. Vice Media has filed for bankruptcy, reached a deal with creditors, including Soros Fund Management, to purchase assets. Can you guys guess how much money they are going to be spending on purchasing Vice? Have you guys read this? Do you know what the number is?
I do, because I saw
the
videos.
Do you know what the number is?
200 million?
It's zero.
What?
It's $0.
Wait, say that one more time.
Zero. Soros Fund Management, and I think Forge is the other company, loaned Vice money, and Vice has defaulted on those loans. So the acquisition comes with the loan as credit towards the purchase. So they're calling it $225 million, but that money was given to them 4 years ago. So they're basically assuming ownership of Vice because Vice is in default.
That's a major implosion.
It's just like, get woke, go broke.
You were at Vice, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
What do you think of this downfall?
I think Vice was this edgy punk rock brand that everybody wanted to work at. And one by one, they excised from the company people who made it fun and brought in stodgy, woke psychopaths and turned the company into plastic garbage that nobody wanted to associate with or read. And this is what you get. From a $5.7 billion evaluation to nothing. Hey, man. Sometimes woke things make money. That's true.
Sucks.
But typically, you get woke, you go broke. I could not imagine what it must be like to have driven Vice up to $5.7 billion, to be named as the up-and-coming CEO of the hottest media property who's now worth $2 billion, to be listed in Forbes as a billionaire, and then only a few years later to zero. Yeah. To be fair, I think Shane Smith is probably still worth tens of millions of dollars. So good for him. I don't think it's a lot to worry about. But it must be crazy to work on something for 3 or 4, I think 4 decades. Yeah, we're talking 30 some odd years, about 30 years. More than that, actually.
Yeah.
And then just have nothing to show for it at the end of the day. I mean, look, the company's going to operate. I think the Soros Fund Management is going to rip the company to shreds, sell everything off to recover their losses.
You don't think they're going to build it up again?
Nope, absolutely not. It's a garbage property now. Vice, when I joined back in 2013, was the gold standard, the golden name in advertising. You wanted your ads on Vice. It was young. It was hip. The kids were there. Now, it's like embarrassing to be associated with Vice.
Yeah.
Who wants to run ads on that? And they got no other. It's not only that. I wonder why it is they didn't do a membership drive thing like BuzzFeed tried to do. Sorry, nobody wants to donate to you, Vice.
Who wants to hang out with the hall monitors?
I'm not going to be paying for fake news. That's for sure.
Like, who wants to hang out with the people that employ people literally to monitor what other people are doing and tattletale on them? If you say a naughty word on the internet, Vice will be there. You have a shitty opinion, Vice will be there to tell everybody and monetize your dumb idea. It's good riddance to bad rubbish.
Does Vice's collapse create a vacuum that another company is going to fill? Like, is there a runner-up to Vice?
My opinion is no, but I'm not. But I don't see any. I don't see that.
Because Vice was kind of unique in its origin.
Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't. It's not leaving a vacuum.
The true vacuum, I think that we lose out on. I love the Vice documentaries on YouTube. For a while, those were really, really good. No matter what the subject was, their website after a few years recently became hot trash. But I still haven't seen that kind of replication of documentaries in a while.
Right. That's what I think. I think there is a space where Vice, way back in the day, really dominated, and that's why they had this fresh, attractive reputation.
It's not like there's anything that's going to be. It's not like they had a position that needs to be filled now. Like currently, they haven't been new and irreverent and risk taking in many years.
Like the Tucker vacuum.
Yeah, it's not exactly. It's not like the Tucker vacuum. I mean, granted, it's a totally different arena, Tucker and Vice, but still, it's not like Vice has been doing anything that Media Matters or whoever. Like that's all it is. It's like Vice and Media Matters were the same people. They're or interchangeable because their opinions were all the same. And the same thing with CNN and MSNBC. The people that you would see on like MSNBC's website that don't make it to the air on their cable channel would absolutely be the same people that you would see writing for Vice or see doing stuff for Vice. So it doesn't really matter, who it is. It's not like there's going to be missing, people weren't watching for a reason,
Do you think people are craving that kind of content and information in this day and age? Like the Vice documentary sphere?
I think so. I mean, I didn't know that I was looking for that kind of content when I first found it, but it definitely captured the attention. And unfortunately, what captures the attention nowadays is videos like TikTok, or weird, Vox documentaries now. But there is that vacuum. And I do remember, it also reminds me of Netflix in the early days when their early documentaries were, their original series were
They
pretty
had some
great.
really interesting stuff, yeah.
But now it's just all these Obama funded movies that, I'm not going to be watching soon. So
Yeah.
there is a vacuum that is created by Vice.
Do you
going
think
under.
it's the corporate structure that takes out that unique perspective, or do you think just as the company gets bigger, they change what they're interested in promoting?
Yeah, well, I think based off what Tim says, that's definitely the case. And I see it with a lot of these YouTube content creators as well, where they start a channel that balloons into a multi-billion or multi-million-dollar business, and then they have to, by the virtue of their growth, get some of these corporate heads involved, and it strays away from what the original spirit of the content was. And I definitely think that's what happened at Vice.
Do you find that's true in your line of work, like working for a congressman? Do you think your messaging changes each year, or do you think it's like pretty consistent?
No, I think it's consistent. I mean, it's pretty easy when you just have to listen to the American people and reflect what they feel, and you don't have
when
to.
you first started working with Gates, did you have to kind of learn his tone, or did you feel like you personally already?
No, my tone is the MAGA movement. I'm a warrior of the ultra MAGA folks out in the country, and so I honestly think that how I feel is how a large majority of our people feel, and so it wasn't ever hard for me to wonder what the American people thinks on an issue. You kind of just get it.
Yeah.
And if I had thoughts on a certain issue, go back to the district and see what the constituents think.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you think that Netflix or Vice would have benefited from being able to do that? Like going back to their audience and saying, what do you want us to be doing?
Yeah, I think so. But I think ultimately money talks.
Yeah, I think so too.
Are you guys on TikTok?
No.
Over at Matt Gates?
Good God, no. Absolutely not. Well, TikTok is an entity of the CCP. So we're never going to be on TikTok, proudly.
That's
You also
where
can't be,
all
right?
of Gen Z is.
It is true. Well, I don't want to be there. I don't want to aid and abet TikTok. So
Fair.
I think regardless, it is I do feel it as a comms director wanting to get that audience, but at the same time you have to think about what you're benefiting. And I think ultimately they're just too much of an evil for me to be able to participate in, and I'll find avenues elsewhere.
That organization Gen Z for Change says that 40% of Gen Z gets their news from TikTok and Instagram.
I believe that.
And that's why TikTok bans people who go against the establishment. Mm-hmm. They are trying to realign politics, and I think we should ban TikTok.
I agree. And there's a certain reason why they operate TikTok how they do in the United States, and they operate a different way in China.
Yeah.
It's a different company in China, their version, it's something else. But I think if you look at Vice is what happens when the market has an opportunity to decide whether or not woke content should survive. The answer is no. TikTok is what happens when the market doesn't. It just becomes the dominant app, and then they start removing any and all competition politically. But nobody wants this stuff. Man, end of an era, man.
Do you think that there's a replacement device?
Nope.
No, you don't think there was like someone picking up the
Timcast News.
Yeah, maybe we can start doing some fun travel adventure documentary stuff.
Yeah, well, your site has been totally revitalized, I believe. I think I've seen Timcast News more on my feed than I have at any other point.
I mean, we just do our thing. Hannah Claire writes stuff.
Me and all of the other journalists.
It's
and you
great.
should follow
I read
at
it.
Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you. I'm so glad that you do.
That
But
Revolver.
Vice wasn't always news. Vice used to be sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was the underground. So when they started doing these travel shows, it was still just the underground. It was like traveling to a foreign place to follow some crazy story and meet some crazy people. They weren't the biggest stories in the world. They would go and meet a guy who sold shrunken heads. And it's like, whoa, what a crazy story.
It reminds me more of what like Shane Cashman does. He
Exactly.
is interested and he pursues it wherever it goes. I mean, his story about finding Confederate gold, like that's not mainstream news. On the other hand, it gives you such an insight into the world around you and especially niche communities.
Maybe we should just do that. We'll send Shane on little adventures with the camera. And
Send Hannah Claire to North Korea.
Just send me to North Carolina.
That's like not that far.
I'll go. I'll
2
figure out what's
hours.
there.
3 hours maybe.
5. I think it's 5.
Politely,
far?
Phil
5 hour drive.
Phil doesn't expect me to go too
know, let me
far.
check.
Come back and report for the show.
Right.
I'm like live on the ground reporting from North Carolina. Just
Go to
being like,
go to North
and
Carolina.
here it is.
Tell me, are the mountains actually as misty as they say?
Right. Well, I mean, I think about this when I first moved to West Virginia. People
5.
always talk about Mothman, right? And you can drive across the state of West Virginia and see the town that is incorporated into the legend of Mothman. I mean, every state has sort of their own weird histories and small conflicts that you can find a lot of stuff that isn't filling this breaking news space. You know, I like writing about policy and I like being able to write about the government. I'm really grateful for the flexibility that I have, but you know, sometimes there are issues that people don't necessarily care about until you write a compelling story about them. And again, like I'm going to shout out Shane Cashman here. I think that's something he does really well. There are stories that aren't urgent, but at the same time, if you read them, it can really shape your perspective. And I think that's what you're saying was interesting about the Vice documentaries.
You should definitely check out Shane's part on Riff Raff. Riff Raff is hilarious. So
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.